It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
We're going to start things off welcoming a whole bunch of new listeners to this show, courtesy of our new partnership with the Talk America Radio Network. It's the new conservative Talk Radio Network, and you can hear their shows, including ours, at talkamericaradio.us. You can also hear our show and shows from this network on 3 stations in the southeast part of our great nation. They are WLBB AM 1330 and FM 106.3 in Carrollton, Georgia, WDDQ Talk 92.1 in Adel, Georgia, and Talk 107.5 WJHC out of Jasper, Florida. In case you're wondering what we're going to share with you this week, let me tell you, we are covering a lot of the bases on the diamond. We'll start off telling you about a very special winter fishery in the western U.S. you may want to investigate. And then we'll talk to the president and CEO of the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, Whit Fosberg. This is a nonprofit group dedicated towards protecting our public lands and your right as a hunter and angler to access them and recreate in them. They do a lot of work in Washington, D.C., lobbying on our behalf. Whit has some New Year's resolutions he's hoping our congressional representatives and senators will make this year as they work or try to work or do whatever they're doing in Washington, D.C. I can tell you this, though. Whit's ideas are common sense solutions to some significant problems we're facing not only as men and women who recreate outdoors, but for many of us who want to live in a safe, clean, and natural environment. After we talk to Whit about politics, we'll check in with Brian Johnson with Fishing League Worldwide, also known as FLW, about the College Bass Fishing Tournament Series and the teams forming throughout our nation's universities in growing numbers that participate in their league. They didn't have this when I was in college, but I sure wish they did, because I wouldn't have had to skip class so much to go fishing. College bass fishing isn't the only fishing we're going to tell you about. There's a surprising number of fishing tournaments in both the fresh and saltwater taking place around the country at this time of year, and we'll update you on the results from several of them. We've got something for you hunters, too, especially you deer hunters who are already thinking about next season. There's a man named Cade McBroom who lives in Missouri, has a farm, and makes a deer attractant with some natural special sauce. Cade says it's a real game changer for hunters looking to attract and keep deer coming to land they'll be hunting in the fall, and that this attractant is good for both the deer and the growth of their antlers. This looks to be an interesting conversation, and I think you'll be surprised by the secret ingredient he's adding to his attractant formula. But before we talk about deer and competitive college bass fishing and conservation issues, let's tell you about a lake you may want to travel to and fish this winter for a very different variety of species. Next up on America Outdoors, we're going to take you to the Tri-City Sportsman Show in Pasco, but we're not talking about fishing in South Central Washington. Nope, we're going to tell you about winter fishing at Flaming Gorge Reservoir. It's a big body of water that borders Wyoming and Utah, and Colton Christensen, who is the owner of Christensen's Lakeshore Tackle, just happens to live there and fish there. Colton, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Colton, I'm doing really good. Let's talk about winter fishing at Flaming Gorge Reservoir. It's primarily known as a kokanee fishery, but at this time of year, you're targeting a different type of fish, aren't you?
Yes, normally we're targeting burbot and lake trout through the ice.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Burbot, known as eel pout in the Midwest, known as ling in other parts of the country, great eating fish, but it's a big mystery to a lot of people about how to catch them. Let's describe these fish first. What do they look like?
They look like an eel or a long snake.
And how do they taste, though?
They taste like poor man's lobster.
Poor man's lobster. I think everybody's just hung on that phrase right there. Okay, they taste good. How do I get me some eel pout? How do I get me some burbot?
We use glow-in-the-dark jigs tipped with sucker meat. We drop it all the way down to the bottom, reel it up a couple inches, and sometimes they want it jigged, and other times they just want it left alone.
So are we talking curly tail grubs, and how much weight are we talking, and how deep are we talking?
So we're talking anywhere from 6 to 60 feet. We're talking just anything that really glows good. The Gary Yamamoto single-tail curly 4-inch jigs, one of my favorite baits. Also, Maniac Custom Lures makes a really good 3.5-inch cutter bug.
What about color? Does that matter at all? I mean, does it matter at Flaming Gorge Reservoir versus other places, or do you just go white or black, or does it matter?
Whites, oranges, greens, those are probably my favorites, as long as they glow good and bright.
All right. Now, you mentioned lake trout, and I know they are kind of a bottom-oriented fish at a lot of times a year, too. When you're jigging for these burbot, are you also picking up lake trout, too?
Yes, we're bycatching a lot of small pups, 2 to 5 pounds, and we need them harvested.
You know, it's funny. You say 2 to 5 pounds is a small pup, and I know when it comes to lake trout, also known as Mackinaw, yeah, that's considered a small fish. But to a lot of folks who are fishing, you know, with flies and streams for 8 to 10-inch cutthroat, that's a pretty big fish. Do you like how lake trout taste?
Lake trout, the small 6 pounds and under, they are excellent eating fish. Anything over that, they get a little fatty.
My experience as well, so thanks for pointing that out. Now, I did note something here. I think you said at the beginning, normally we fish for these fish under the ice. Is Flaming Gorge Reservoir frozen this year or not?
We have very little ice this year. We've got a tournament coming up. We're lacking ice. People are kokanee fishing right now, and that's unheard of.
Well, I want to talk about that a little bit, because after all, Christensen's Lakeshore Tackle, you make kokanee fishing tackle. Flaming Gorge Reservoir, it's not frozen, at least not much. Water's really cold. People are fishing for kokanee, but how are they doing it with this really cold water, and does that change from how they normally do it during other months of the year?
Yeah, so we're just fishing a lot shallower. We're using the same baits, but instead of fishing 50, 60 feet, we're fishing from the surface to 20 feet.
Now, being the owner of a tackle company, I'm pretty sure that you've got some recommendations on what to use to catch some of these kokanee out of Flaming Gorge Reservoir.
Yeah, our mini squids, it's a really small version of a standard kokanee squid. We're picking up a lot more fish off of those. I'm trolling behind, a 4 to 6 inch dodger.
And speaking of dodgers, you've got 3 different types of dodgers. One of them's brand new, and it looks really unique.
Yeah, so we've got multiple different styles of dodgers, and then we have various sizes of each style. And one of these we're actually bringing out brand new at this show.
Tell me about that.
We've got a micro flash dodger that we brought out. It's a smaller version of our flasher dodger. We've had it for about 3 years now. It's been running really well at Flaming Gorge.
All right. There are people that are listening all over the country to this, and there's people that have kokanee fisheries in their areas as well. But they're probably wondering, where do they get a hold of this stuff from Christensen's Lakeshore Tackle so they can try it out at a lake near them?
So you can get it online at our website at lakeshoretackle.com, or Sportsman's and Cabela's all carry our product.
That's Christensen's Lakeshore Tackle, their website, lakeshoretackle.com. Check them out. Pick up some of those dodgers. Pick up some of those kokanee squidders. Try them out. They might just become a new favorite lure for you. And, as you just heard, a winter trip to Flaming Gorge Reservoir at the border of Wyoming and Utah might be a good bet this winter. Colton, thanks for telling us about this on America Outdoors Radio.
Hey, thank you much.
Flaming Gorge Reservoir sounds like one heck of a winter fishery. I know I'd like to try it out. By the way, do you have some suggestions on unique winter fisheries our listeners ought to know about? If so, contact us through our website at America Outdoors Radio and let us know. We might just include information about them on the air and maybe get a hold of a local expert to share some advice with the rest of us. Stick around. We've got a lot more fishing, hunting, and conservation coming your way on America Outdoors Radio.
If you consider yourself a hardcore fisherman who takes pride in being the first person on the water and the last one off, Fish Fighter products were designed for you. We make products for the relentless fishermen who know that big fish are caught by those who put in the work. With our Relentless Series tackle trays, rocket launcher rod racks, and breakaway river anchors, you'll spend more time chasing the fish, not your gear. Designed and built right here in the USA, Fish Fighter products won't let you down. Gear up at fishfighterproducts.com.
Are you looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here for you. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer affordable platforms to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting John Cruz through his website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Hurry, though. If you wait too long, the big opportunity might just get away. AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
There's no more majestic, magical, adventuresome country than the western United States of America to enjoy a great family vacation. Hello, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. Shiloh Inns are still offering affordable 4-star accommodations at 2-star prices. Enjoy deluxe smoke-free suites, spacious pools and spas, and fully equipped fitness centers. From free high-speed internet in every room to a free continental breakfast or full, hot, delicious breakfast at most Shiloh Inns. There are no hidden fees like some of the big chain hotels charge. Even the kids stay free, and Shiloh Inns are dog-friendly. For reservations, call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohins.com. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American family-owned and proud of it.
You're back with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time to talk a little bit about conservation, and one of the best people to talk about that topic with is Whit Fosberg. He is the president and the CEO of the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. Whit, great to have you back on the show.
John, always a pleasure.
So, Whit, it's a new year, and the new year is bringing lots and lots of challenges from a conservation viewpoint for those of us who love to hunt and fish here in the United States of America. And you and your staff penned, well, I guess we'll call it some resolutions that you're hoping the Trump administration and Congress will make in 2018. Let's run through some of those, because 2017, boy, that was a doozy of a year. Let's hope this year goes a little bit better.
Yeah, no, and let's hope these resolutions we make are not like most of our resolutions, which fall by the wayside after the first month.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we start off with the first one that you're hoping is going to happen this year?
Yeah, so the first one we talk about, and these are all on our website, www.trcp.org, in our blog section. And what we did was we polled our staff and some of our partners and sort of thought about, try to get their feedback as to what they all thought some of the top priorities would be for 2018. The first one we have there is something we're calling Fix Our Forests. And this has been a long-running problem that a lot of your listeners probably know about. And you can't help but pay attention to things like this when you see California burning up, Oregon burning up, Montana burning up, like we've seen earlier this year. And, we deal with fire differently than we deal with any other natural disaster in this country. If it's a hurricane, a tornado, a tsunami, you name it, it comes out of an emergency fund with FEMA. And so it doesn't bleed the agencies dry that have the core funding for those accounts. Fire, we do it differently. Fire has to come out of the Forest Service's main core budget. 20 years ago, they were spending about 16% of their budget fighting forest fires. Today, it's about 56%. They project that's going to be up over 70% in the next decade. And what that means is they have no money, literally, to do anything else, to fix habitat for wildlife, to improve trails, to improve campgrounds, even to manage to prevent future forest fires. None of that is happening because of the way we deal with fire funding in this country. So we have a bill in Congress that several folks have sponsored. Mike Crapo, Republican from Idaho, has been pushing this really hard. Ron Wyden, Democrat from Oregon, same thing. It's changing the way we pay for fire so it doesn't have, catastrophic fires don't have to come out of the core budget. Along with that, we have some basic modest forest reforms just to make it a little bit easier for the agencies, in this case the U.S. Forest Service, to get wood out of the forest. I mean, you remember, John, those old days of the spotted owl and the fights we were having in the Northwest about timber harvest. And at that time, really, there was, it was just sort of the pendulum had swung too far one way. We were clear-cutting huge swaths of forest. We were getting massive mudslides. We were wiping out salmon populations. So the pendulum needed to swing back to be a little bit more modest about how we did forestry. But the pendulum now has swung too far. It's difficult to get wood out of the forest. Every single timber sale is litigated. Even timber sales are designed to reduce the fuel load to prevent forest fires. I mean, we have things like pine beetle infestation in the West, which have rendered huge swaths of forest, just tinderboxes, just waiting for the next match to fall before they blow up, and we need to do something about that. So in a nutshell, that is what we're talking about when we talk about fixing our forest.
Whit, I've got a question for you about this, because I know last year there was some legislation that was co-sponsored by Senator Cantwell out of Washington State, and I believe one of the senators out of Alaska, and it just didn't cross the finish line. And I know that late in 2017, similar legislation was working its way through the House. I know Representative Dan Newhouse from Washington State was one of the co-sponsors, if not one of the people working hard on that bill. And again, they just couldn't push it across the finish line. What is the holdup here? This is a no-brainer. I don't understand why Congress can't get this passed, and I'm sure, or at least I would hope, that President Trump would sign it if it crossed his desk.
Yeah, John, you're asking a great question, and common sense would say that this is something pretty much everybody should be behind. And it has broad bipartisan support in the House and the Senate. But there are a couple of problems here. One, nothing is easy in Congress these days. Even the most simple bipartisan things get held up just because how dysfunctional and inoperative Congress has become. And, so and I think it has more to do with the fact that Congress itself is so broken that it has a hard time dealing with anything. In the old days, we could pass a bill like this relatively easily. Today, because so little passes, everything gets larded up into a great big bill, which invariably has good provisions and bad provisions, and it becomes so weighted down by its own mass that it can't cross the finish line. So, obviously what we would love to see is Congress go back to the old days of actually taking a bill up, having hearings on it, passing it out of a committee, taking it to full floor, getting an up or down vote, sending it to the president, who signs or vetoes it. And we think that we would pass all the hurdles on this. But the problem is that Congress just doesn't operate the way it used to.
Here. All right, Whit. Well, it's pretty obvious we're not going to make it through 6. So let's take a look at one of the other really important priorities you're hoping is going to be addressed in Washington, D.C. this year.
Sure, John. Why don't we talk about Farm Bill? Farm Bill is, something that's coming up for reauthorization in 2018. It is the largest single source of funding for conservation in this country. Unlike, we were talking about before, which is the public lands, this is conservation on private land. About, 70% of the country's land mass is in private hands. About half of that is in either agricultural production or commercial forestry production. So what we do on private lands makes a huge difference for water quality, for fish and wildlife habitat, and for keeping that land in open space as opposed to being converted to suburban sprawl. So we have a very, opportunity here to get past partisanship and to put together a bill the Republicans support, the Democrats support, the rural area support, the urban area support, that will really significantly increase funding for conservation on private lands to help landowners be better stewards. Conservation Reserve Program is a program that your readers know about. We had to kick that down to 24 million acres in the last Farm Bill because farm prices were so high, we just couldn't compete in the conservation side with basically taking it out of conservation and turning it into row crops. Situation is reversed. Corn prices, wheat prices are all much lower than they were. So I think we have a real opportunity and a real clamoring by landowners to get into that program. Other programs, easement programs like EQIP, which pay for things like water quality improvements. These are all big deals and something that should enjoy broad bipartisan support. And also, if you have an administration like this one, which really does not favor a regulatory approach to things like clean water, then you have to double down on the incentive approach, which is what we have in the Farm Bill. So I think that's one thing that we would really see as an opportunity moving forward that we hope all sportsmen, but really all Americans can get behind.
And I really think it's important to note here that what you described clearly has benefits, both the Farm Bill and this fix for the way we fund our U.S. Forest Service. These would be big wins if they pass for hunters, for anglers, and anyone who recreates outdoors. But these benefit anybody who lives in these areas as well, whether you're in farm country or flyover country, as you call it, or whether you live out west where these forest fires ravage good portions of our country on an annual basis now. We've got to go. But again, let's give out the website so folks can find out more about the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership and especially read about these other resolutions you hope will be addressed in 2018 by Congress and the President.
Thanks, John. The website is www.trct.org, and you can you'll find those resolutions pretty quickly once you get on the site.
Whit, thank you, as always, for making the time. I will let you get back to work in the halls of Congress trying to do good things for us as hunters and anglers.
Thank you, John.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, a nationwide group working to keep public lands in public hands. We've helped ban the use of drones for hunting. We help repair wildlife corridors in key riparian areas. We speak up against illegal ATV use. We collaborate with elected leaders to keep public lands in public hands. We're Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, with membership in all 50 states and Canada. Please join this dynamic conservation group. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
Two huge events for hunters and anglers are coming to the Northwest. The first is the Washington Sportsman Show, January 24th to the 28th at the Fairgrounds in Puyallup. As big as this show is, the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show at Portland's Expo Center is even bigger, with even more outfitters, retailers, boat dealers, and free seminars galore. You won't want to miss these shows, January 24th to the 28th in Puyallup and February 7th to the 11th in Portland.
That bass! Get that bass! I'm a bass master cause I get that bass. When I wanna get some, I can get some fast. Go to the hole with my 4-stroke Johnson. You know I got holes all across Wisconsin. Don't matter if it's black or white. I get that bass every day and night.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Fish Fighter Products. They make innovative gear for your boat as an angler, everything from rod holders to anchoring systems and a whole lot more. Find out more at fishfighterproducts.com. Speaking of fishing, we're going to talk about fishing, and we're going to talk about a lot of young men and women who are fishing as part of the Fishing League Worldwide College Tournament Series. With us here to tell you more about it is Brian Johnson with FLW. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, John. Pleasure to speak with you this morning.
So, Brian, you're coming at us from the FLW headquarters in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I understand that the first Yeti College Series tournament just took place, and that was down in Lufkin, Texas. Tell our listeners what happened there.
For sure. So we had our first tournament of the season kickoff down on Sam Rayburn Reservoir in Texas. It was a great turnout. We had a really nice time down there, and we had a team. The Tarleton State University team won the tournament. They won it with 17 pounds, 14 ounces, 5 bass, 17 pounds, 15 ounces. They actually won it by 1 ounce.
Wow.
They had a successful tournament and were able to take home $2,000 for their club.
Not only that, but by winning this tournament, they qualify for something else, don't they?
For sure. So how it's structured is at each tournament during this year, the top performers qualify for the College Fishing National Championship, which is held the following year. So they qualified for the 2019 FLW College Fishing National Championship.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brian. I'm jealous. I am of an age where they had no bass fishing clubs. They had no way to do anything like this when I went to college. How long has the Yeti FLW College Fishing Series been around? And give or take, how many colleges compete in this series?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to get involved, represent your school on a national scale. Get out there, get some publicity for the school, attract people to the school, and maybe even have them join the club as a result of seeing you out fishing. The college fishing series started in 2009, and we've seen growth every single year. We're really proud of that. And in 2017, we had 276 colleges competing with us from across the country.
That is amazing. So I've got to ask, and I guess I'm going to use the analogy of college football. I love college football. I love the enthusiasm and the competitiveness you see at that level. And I'm sure that you have the same thing with the college fishing series. Do they actually have scholarships at any colleges for kids to go fishing and earn their way through school?
Yeah, I have heard of bass fishing scholarships. I've seen some signing day type scenarios unfold in the really hardcore bass fishing sections of the country, in the southeast, the Murray States. There's another, the name escapes me. They're right by Lake Chickamauga down there in Dayton, Tennessee. It's a small school, but they actively recruit bass anglers to their school, and yeah, some of them do offer scholarships to people who come fish for them.
So here's another question along the same lines. Again, this whole football bass fishing analogy. Now, I live out west in Pac-12 country, and I'll tell you what, every year we think we're so good because we can rack up the points, and we've got great passing schools out here. And then we'll play somebody from the SEC, or we'll play somebody in a bowl from the Big Ten, and we'll just get stomped and be put back to earth. Is it the same way with the college fishing series that certain areas, certain colleges are just way more dominant than others?
It seems to fluctuate, but I know in recent years, I know Oregon has had some good success. The Ducks have done well. California State University, Chico State out there in California is a dominant school. And then way across out east, the University of South Carolina, the Gamecocks are a strong team. They've won the national championship, not this past year, but the last two in a row before this year. So they're just a dominant team when it comes down to big tournaments. And I know those are some names that, when you see colleges signed up and sending a bunch of kids, like I know, those probably invoke a little bit of anxiety in some of the competitors because they know they're going to have to bring their best game.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So here's another question for you. I'm not sure how many college-age people are listening today, but I know a lot of their parents might be listening and thinking to themselves, I am getting on the phone. I am telling my kid, who I go bass fishing with all the time, that he needs to go to school and join one of these teams. What's involved in doing so? Is it pretty much the same as joining like the intramural flag football team, or how does it work at your local college?
Yeah, I mean, it really takes a few dedicated students to get it going. It's interesting because it's not an NCAA sanctioned activity. It's a club sport in these schools. So these kids have a lot of free reign on how to run their clubs, what to do with any money that they receive and prizes. They can use the money to help buy a boat or help with travel expenses. It's not regulated by the NCAA, which was an interesting kind of story a couple of years ago when we were talking about paying athletes and stuff like that with the NCAA. But it takes, like I said, a few dedicated students to get a club going. And what they can do is they can head to flwfishing.com and they can register their school and get the ball rolling that way. Obviously, they have to, organize transportation and lodging and stuff like that. But if you can get your hands on a boat, all the boat rules and regulations are on flwfishing.com, and they can get themselves to the lake. That's really all it takes.
And with that in mind, I guess we should talk about how the tournament schedule is structured, because it's not like somebody from my alma mater, Eastern Washington University, which, by the way, folks, has a great bass fishing club, has to travel all the way out east unless they're gunning for the national championship. So why don't you briefly explain how the regional circuits work and how folks get together for basically a national championship?
For sure. So we have 5 divisions in the college fishing circuit: Central, Southeastern, Southern, Western, and Northern. All over the country, and out on your part, a lot of the fishing happens in California, Clear Lake, the California Delta. That'd be the closest fisheries to where you are. But yeah, so at each of these tournaments, there's 3 qualifying events in each of the 5 circuits. So for a total of 15 qualifying events throughout the year. They're spread out, a month and a half to 2 months apart, and then some, are outliers that happen in the fall. And then what happens is the top 10 schools at each of these qualifying events qualifies for the national championship like Tarleton State did, and then they'll be joined by the additional 9 that were under them from this season opener. And then all of those schools will compete in the College Fishing National Championship. We announced that site this fall, and they'll be competing for some prize money, as well as one of them will fish in the World Championship of Fishing, the Forest Wood Cup. So a lot on the line at the national championship.
A lot indeed. Very exciting tournament series. Again, it is the Yeti FLW College Fishing Series. You can find out more at the website. Why don't you give that out one more time, Brian?
Sure. Everything, all the information you need on how to get your school started, on how to get involved with bass fishing itself, a very approachable, easy thing to get involved with, flwfishing.com.
That's flwfishing.com. flwfishing.com. Check it out and get that kitty years bass fishing through college. Brian, thanks for telling us all about this on America Outdoors Radio.
Thanks a lot, John.
We'll wrap this segment up the way we started, with a little fishing and hunting rap music from that Wisconsin group Shad Rap.
I was happy till I fished the wrong hole and came out with a crappie. Oh, big bass. Largemouth or small, I want to mount a big bass up against the wall.
Oh, do you like this bass?
Oh yeah, that's a nice looking bass.
Oh, you want to get this bass?
Oh, let me grab that bass.
Oh, do you need some bass?
Yeah, that's a nice big bass.
You gonna get that bass?
Yeah, I'm gonna get that bass.
If you consider yourself a hardcore fisherman who takes pride in being the first person on the water and the last one off, Fish Fighter products are designed and built for you right here in the USA. Fish Fighter products are used by the top fishing guides in the Northwest because they know having the right equipment is imperative to a successful fishing trip. With our Relentless Series tackle trays, rocket launcher rod racks, and breakaway river anchors, Fish Fighter products makes the gear you can count on. Find out more at fishfighterproducts.com.
Where can you find 4 rivers, 3 great fisheries, 2 majestic mountains, and 1 fantastic adventure all year round? Sensational The Dalles. Active community, authentic food, and great beer. ExploreTheDalles.com. Come and create your own adventure, and maybe even you can hook a river monster in the Dalles.
2 huge events for hunters and anglers are coming to the Northwest. The first is the Washington Sportsman Show, January 24th to the 28th at the Fairgrounds in Puyallup. As big as this show is, the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show at Portland's Expo Center is even bigger, with even more outfitters, retailers, boat dealers, and free seminars galore. You won't want to miss these shows, January 24th to the 28th in Puyallup and February 7th to the 11th in Portland.
This land, once wild and free, fades now from our memory. But I remember what it was like, what we were like, what we are capable of when we band together. Perhaps more than any other landscape, wetlands embody the life-giving abundance that nature has to offer. And perhaps more than any other organization, Ducks Unlimited is working to ensure that our continent's wetlands not only survive, but thrive for generations well beyond this one. These natural wonders are where waterfowl begin their cycle of life, where the deer and the antelope play, and where we, the people, gather together to see and share what makes the outdoors so great. The time is now to band together with organizations like Ducks Unlimited. The time is now to rescue our wetlands.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Cruz through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and this segment of the show is brought to you by Fish Fighter Products. They're located in Mountain Home, Idaho, but they make innovative gear for your fishing boat that you can use all over the country and all over the world, for that matter. Find out more at fishfighterproducts.com. You don't think of fishing derbies taking place this time of year besides ice fishing derbies or maybe some bass tournaments in the southern states, but there are. And one of them happened last weekend in Puget Sound around Washington State's beautiful San Juan Islands. It was the 15th annual Roche Harbor Salmon Derby, and it was a sellout with 356 anglers fishing out of 100 boats during the two-day event. A total of 179 Chinook salmon were weighed in, and the biggest one was a 17-plus pounder reeled in by Robert Enselman, who pocketed a $10,000 check for his troubles. Another West Coast fishing tournament that took place last Saturday was the American Bass NorCal Regional Tournament at California's most famous big bass body of water, Clear Lake. The winners, Sandy and Brian McKeoch, who took first place with a limit of bass weighing in at 20.21 pounds. They not only had the heaviest stringer, but also the biggest fish, an honor that went to Brian McKeoch, who hauled in a 7.73-pound largemouth bass. Heading to the other side of our great nation, the Sailfish 400, put on by Blue Water Movements Incorporated, went off out of Miami, Florida for 2 days last week. Who came out on top last Saturday? The crew at the Freebird. That's who, with 15 sailfish caught and released. Wow. What did they win? $42,500. That's what. Not a bad day to start off the year if you're a tournament angler. Okay, last week we told you about the big Brainerd JC's ice fishing extravaganza being held this weekend at Gull Lake in Minnesota. Now, we want to tell you about another tournament on the ice, and this one is just for perch. It's called the Perch Assault Ice Fishing Tournament Series, and the next one is going to happen at Cascade Lake in central Idaho, February 10th and 11th. Anglers are being drawn to this ice fishing tournament, not just from Idaho and Montana, but from states like Wisconsin, the Dakotas, and even Canada, all hoping to catch the next world record yellow perch. You see, the last world record was caught here in 2015. As a matter of fact, it was caught by a 12-year-old girl named Tina Weiss. And Tina's record perch measured 15 and a half inches long and weighed just a shave under 2 3/4 pounds. Many believe this record is waiting to be broken, and it only makes sense that a die-hard ice fishing perch tournament angler will be the one to do it. We'll let you know if one of these men or women pulls it off, or should I say, pulls it out of the ice next month. Want to find out more and maybe compete yourself? Well, here's the website, perchassault.com. Okay, that's enough about fishing. Let's do an about face and talk about hunting. Next up on America Outdoors Radio, deer hunting season is over, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about next year. And one person who's got something that's going to help you is Cade McBroom. He's the owner of a company called GYT90, and they make some really special attractant that's going to lure deer to a property near you. Cade, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, you live in Missouri, and the way you deer hunt in the Midwest is a lot different than the way we deer hunt in the far West. We've got thousands and thousands of acres of public land, and a lot of hunting is done as basically a spot and stock affair. But out in the Midwest, you're hunting smaller pieces of ground, a lot of private property, and that kind of changes the game in terms of how you go about deer hunting. You're hunting out of like tree stands, aren't you?
That's correct. That's typically how it's done around our area.
So, Cade, here's the next question. You're on these private property lands. There's deer all over the place, but what do you do to get those deer closer? And I'm guessing you're going to tell me attractant is what you use, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the many strategies. The idea of using the attractant and creating a pattern with our deer, getting them used to coming through our hunting areas. Of course, a lot of guys use food plots, several strategies, but attractants are definitely a big part of that.
So for our listeners who have never used attractant before, what is it typically made of, and how do you use it? I'm guessing it's not something you just put in a trough a week before opening day, is it?
No, you definitely want to have a steady regimen of when you're putting it out. Of course, the attractants are typically used closer to hunting season, but most of the attractants, like ours, a liquid form that can be poured over a tree stump, over old decaying wood, can be poured on soil, and then throughout the year, some guys use it over feed or mineral blocks as well. But the difference, most attractants are going to be made using water as a base to carry some sort of a mineral, a flavor, or an odor that will attract deer. And we're a little different because instead of using water, we use crude soybean oil.
So here's my question. I understand it's different, but does it make a difference using the soybean oil?
Yeah, 100%. So, one, if you're going to buy a product, buying water typically isn't something guys enjoy doing. So this has the added benefit or the premium benefit of the crude soybean oil. And the soybean oil has a distinct smell. It has a flavor to it. It's crude, so it hasn't been refined. So there's a lot of different ways to make a deer attractant. And most people use water. Basically, you're kind of paying for water, but it also it dissolves and it carries minerals, something that carries a flavor or a smell, something to attract the deer in. Whereas we use crude soybean oil to attract deer in, and it has a distinct smell, has a distinct flavor. It has a lot more minerals in it. A lot of added health benefits from that soybean oil. One of the biggest benefits that you'll get from soybean oil is the fact that it's basically pure energy or calories. In extreme weather, whenever it's hot, a deer is going to burn more calories.
Sure.
So as they heat up, as their bodies heat up, every time they move, they burn more calories. In extreme weather, on the cold side, so if it's really, really cold, they're going to burn more calories to do anything. It takes more calories to basically maintain a body heat and to thrive. So their natural instinct is to go find more calories. Well, we're putting a product out that is basically calories and energy, and along with the minerals that we combine with it. So when their natural instinct is to go find these things, they'll come to our attractant over just about anything else for the simple fact that that's what they need to really thrive. That's what their body's telling them to go get. So it's pretty basic animal nutrition just applied to deer.
One last question for you, Cade. How long before hunting season are you using this attractant?
Of course, the first thing that I will say, the first thing is to check your local game laws to make sure that our product fits and that you're allowed to use it. And we definitely do not encourage baiting or using our product. Several states have different laws for their deer health. So first of all, check that. In our particular county, we can't set our product out within 10 days of deer season. So we're using it to create a pattern all year long. You can go within 50 miles of us, and the law is totally different. So the guys who are using it properly and using it the best are using it all year long in some form or fashion, but mostly in the extreme weather. That's the main time to use it. That's when we would encourage you to put it out the most.
We are out of time, but let's give out the website so folks can find out more, and let's let people know where they can buy GYT 92.
Yeah, you can find us at GYT90.com. That's GYT90.com for Grow Your Trophy 90.com. You can also find us on Facebook. And if you're a retailer that is looking for any new products, we encourage you to ask your distributor so that we can provide distributor pricing and hopefully get the product out to you.
There you go, folks. The place to go to, GYT90.com. They make attractant, and they make it with soybean oil. Cade, thanks for telling us about this on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you.
As we wrap up, we'd like to let you know where we're at this weekend. We are exhibiting at the Washington Sportsman Show in Puyallup, Washington through Sunday, and I hope you'll drop by our booth for a chance to win a $100 gift certificate from Max Lure Company that we'll give away at the end of the show. If you get a chance, I hope you'll check out our website, AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. You'll find a preview of what's coming up in the week ahead. We're also on Facebook. You'll find us there at America Outdoors Radio. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we are also part of the lineup with TalkAmericaRadio.us, and you can hear us there Saturday mornings at 6 a.m., or you can hear us on demand anytime you want on our YouTube channel, which you'll find at Northwestern Outdoors, that's one word, or you can hear us on the go by downloading the Podbean app. Just go to podbean.com and subscribe to America Outdoors Radio. We've got to go, but we'll be back again next week with another hour of fishing, hunting, conservation, and more. May the good Lord bless you in the week ahead, and remember, it's your country and your outdoors.